ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be that dude with the perfect six-pack at the beach. And I remember all my friends and I, when we were in middle school and high school, that was kind of all we talked about. We wanted to get six-pack abs, we wanted big arms. Those were always the two main goals. And I remember this music video of LL Cool J way back in the day. I think I was like a freshman in high school. And he's in this tropical paradise. He's super ripped. He's got a really hot girl with him. And I was thinking, you know, like, that's what I want. I want to feel what it's like to be in a tropical paradise with crazy ripped abs. Of course, I got Kitty Gaines with me. Way better than the girl in the music video. And I always wanted to experience what that would be like. So let's take a look at these four pictures. We have Lazar Angelov, we have The Rock, we have Ulysses, and we have Arnold from back in his prime. Now, I think we can all agree that these guys are really well known for their physiques. They all have, you know, quote unquote six packs, but just looking aesthetically at their abdominals, we all can agree that Lazar Angelov and Ulysses have astronomically, and I mean astronomically, better six packs and better aesthetic abs than The Rock and Arnold back in his day. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video. I've never seen a video on this. I was really excited about researching this, and I figured out there are actually 7 abdominal genetic categories. So you guys at home are going to take the six-pack genetic test.
You ain't got no gains. You ain't lift no weights.
So back when I was in high school, I go to the movies, we go to see Amityville Horror, and all the girls are like, oh my god, Ryan Reynolds has such an amazing body. Now let's take a look at Ryan Reynolds, and we're going to compare him to Jeremy Buendia. Now, by hardcore bodybuilding terminology and just the industry, most guys would be like, oh, this guy doesn't even lift. But you guys gotta admit, he has a very attractive and aesthetic physique. Now, why is that? And that is our first category question, is abdominal symmetry. So abdominal symmetry basically means, are your abs the exact same on the right side as they are the left side? So 3 extreme examples of very symmetrical abs. We have Greg Plitt, we have Lazar Angelov, and we have Zac Efron. So if you look at their abdominal muscles, it's basically the exact same on the right side as it is the left. So it basically lines up into a perfect looking, almost kind of like that Photoshop-ish looking six-pack. Now, on the contrary, there's some people who actually have uneven abdominals. So basically, you have an ab here, you have an ab here, and they don't line up evenly. They're kind of like zigzag. So we have actually Jay Cutler, who is a multiple Mr. Olympia winner. I believe he's won it like 5 or 6 times. We have some boxer guy from the internet. I have no idea who he is, but he has very, very uneven abdominals. So you can see he's lean. He's got a six-pack, but compare it to Greg Plitt, compare it to Zac Efron, it doesn't have that aesthetic perfection of just lining up evenly. Now, obviously, I think uneven abs still look cool. As long as you're ripped, you have that six-pack, it's not a huge deal. But from an aesthetic standpoint, if you look at the people who typically get the most fitness modeling magazine covers, Greg Plitt, over 100 magazine covers, super symmetrical abs. You look at Ryan Terry, coming up on the men's physique scene. I think he took 2nd or 3rd, and he's landed a lot of magazine covers. Almost perfect symmetry in the abs. So, question number 1 on the six-pack test. Are your abdominal muscles symmetrical or asymmetrical? Basically, are they even or uneven? And if it's really close to being even, I want you guys to give yourself the benefit of the doubt and vote yes for this. So let's take my picture, for example, and see if I pass the first question of the test. As you can see, it's not perfectly symmetrical like Zac Efron or Greg Plitt, but they are fairly symmetrical, so I'm gonna give myself a yes. Let's move on to question number 2. So real quick, guys, I've been working the last couple of years to perfect this program called Science of Abs and make it the best six-pack program in the world, and I wanna give 10 guys 100% free access to the program, basically beta test it. We just tweaked a few things. It is an insane program, so all you have to do is comment below the number 1 reason that you want a six-pack, and I'm gonna pick the 10 best answers and give you instant 100% free access to the Science of Abs program, in hopes that you'll give me an honest testimonial and an honest before and after picture from the program. So Comment below and let's get right back to the content. Now, how many abs are you actually born with is 100% genetic. Now, let's look at a few extreme examples. We have one guy over here who actually was born with a 10-pack. We have another guy with an 8-pack. Of course, we have the common 6-pack. And we have some people who are actually born with a 4-pack. And we have the occasional 3-pack. Basically, you have the symmetrical abs lined up, but you're missing that center line. So you got the 3-pack, and then Ulysses over here has more of that pronounced center line in his abdominals. So how many abdominal muscles you're born with is 100% genetic. Now, you can still have a great physique despite abdominal muscle insertion genetics. In fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ronnie Coleman both didn't have very good abdominal muscle insertion genetics, but they prevailed to win, I think, between them both a combined 14 or 15 Mr. Olympias. So obviously, you can still have a great looking physique despite this. Now, let's take a look at perfect abdominal muscle insertion genetics. We have Ryan Terry and we have Greg Plitt. So notice they have 6 to 8 abdominal muscles each, perfectly symmetrical. They're very blocky and full, and they have the pronounced V-shaped torso. So there are 3 factors that go down to your abdominal muscle insertion genetics. Number 1, how many ab muscles do you actually have? Number 2, how blocky/thin your abs appear. And number 3, how pronounced that V-shaped torso is. Now, blocky versus thin abs, I want you guys to look at kind of Z's over here. We have Christian Guzman, and we have, who's the other example I'm going to show in this? And we have Ryan Reynolds. Notice how their abs are a little bit more thin than, say, Mike Thurston over here, who has those really blocky, thick abdominals. This is partly genetic in how the muscle inserts, but we can actually counteract this with weighted abdominal work. That's why on the Science of Abs program, it's a ton of weighted abdominal work, because nothing will build the ab muscles more than resistance, because keep in mind, your abs are a muscle. They're going to grow the most with resistance. So that's going to maximize how blocky your abdominal muscles are. So the last insertion genetic factor is that V-shaped torso. Now, basically how your V is formed is going to be 100% genetic. And we see some guys who have just a crazy V. I remember the R&B singer D'Angelo way back in the day was actually known, that was like what he was famous for, was having that crazy V-line. And just basically how pronounced and the angle that they come down on is going to be 100% genetic. Some guys have crazy V-shaped torso. Jeff Said has a good one. Zeez has a good one. And some guys are lacking that thickness and that fullness, just the really pronounced V-lines going down. So it is time to answer the question. Now, if you answer at least 2 of these 3 questions yes, you pass question number 2, you can say yes. If you answer yes on 0 or 1 of these, you fail this question. Now, it goes without saying, you could have the greatest abdominal muscle insertion genetics in the world, and if it's covered with a layer of fat, it's not going to look very good. That's why the 3rd category is your fat loss genetics. So fat loss genetics sort of go hand in hand with your body type. Now, ectomorph is going to be the naturally skinny, smaller frame. These guys typically have a really fast resting metabolism. Mesomorph are the people that we all love to hate. They basically have perfect genetics, build muscle really fast, and burn fat like nothing. Endomorph would be the ones considered to have bad fat loss genetics. Now, if you're an endomorph, you typically are going to be a bigger frame. You're going to pack around a lot more muscle mass and size, but you're also going to have a lot more body fat. Now, some people have flat out sluggish metabolisms and lower levels of crucial fat loss hormones, HGH and testosterone, and many others. But 95% of people are shooting themselves in the foot when it comes to fat loss because of a few crucial mistakes. Number 1, they have no idea what their caloric maintenance level is. They're basically eating a bunch of food every day. They think they're cutting, they think they're shredding, but if you ask them what their macros are, they would have no idea, so they've never consistently been in a caloric deficit for 6 to 8 weeks. Number 2 is eating too much sugar and junk food and processed food. So the more sugar that you eat, the higher that your insulin levels are going to be, the more likely you are to store body fat and the lower your testosterone levels are going to be. And then the third category is just flat out not doing the right type of workouts. It's a proven fact that high intensity interval training is going to be awesome for your fat loss hormones and long bouts of cardio. So basically, if you're just jogging and running, like long distance marathon running, and you're not doing any form of HIIT cardio, you're not lifting weights at all, that's probably not going to be the best for your long-term fat loss. And then also, intense weight training, compound lifts are going to help jack up those fat loss and muscle building hormones. People who are slightly more on the endomorph scale are going to have a harder time revealing those six-pack abs. They're going to have a little bit slower metabolisms, and they're gonna have a harder time losing the fat around the midsection. So my question to you is, do you have good or bad fat loss genetics? And a really easy way to judge is, I feel like we all kind of inherently know, when you go on a shredding diet, do you feel like the fat is melting away in 1 or 2 weeks? Or do you feel like after 4 to 5 weeks, you hardly look any different and you have to really up your cardio and you have to go on this crazy drastic deficit to reveal your abs? So which one are you? Yes or no, do you have good or bad fat loss genetics? I myself have good fat loss genetics, and I realize this because anytime I shred, I feel like I look pretty different in the mirror in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks. Now, some people could have great six packs, but they basically look boxy, like their physique is almost like a box, while other guys have ripped six packs and they basically look like an action figure. Now, you can do all the fat loss protocols in the world. You can train your abs and have perfectly symmetrical abs, but unless you have great waist genetics, you are never going to look like Jeremy Potvin, who has what appears to be like a 24 to 26 inch waist. Now, this right here is your hip bone, your hip bone structure. You cannot file this down. You cannot take a saw and start filing down your hip. This is your hip bone structure. It is something that you are born with. So, we're going to talk about ways to maximize this, but let's look no further than the top 3 placements in men's physique. We have Jeremy Buendia, Jeremy Potvin, and Andre Ferguson. And Andre Ferguson actually made an Instagram post about how he understands that he's been blessed with really good bodybuilding genetics. He's got the small waist, he's got the broader shoulders, he's got the full muscle bellies. So how big or small your waist is can be very genetic, but you can have an incredible physique with average waist genetics. In fact, if you look at Greg Plitt's physique, it would appear that his waist is like a 30 to a 32, but he was on the cover of over 100 fitness magazines, and I myself think that he has a much better looking physique than, say, someone like Jeremy Buendia and Jeremy Potvin, who almost looks like kind of like cartoonish the way that this like that crazy V is formed. Now, how we can really maximize this is no more dumbbell side bends. Building that blocky muscle around the side of your abs is going to make your waist look thick and blocky. Stomach vacuums are amazing. Stomach vacuums are going to bring everything in nice and tight. It's going to work those transverse abdominals, and it's going to cause those transverse abdominals to pull all your muscles inward, giving you the illusion of a smaller waist. And then most importantly, building the surrounding muscle groups are going to give you the illusion of a smaller waist. So the wider that your lats get, the wider that your back is, the broader, more 3D that your shoulders can get, and just the overall more muscle you build across your chest, shoulders, and lats, that's going to give the illusion of a much thinner waist. Now, do you have good or bad waist genetics? Is your waist very boxy? Like, do you have a 34 all the way up to like a 40-inch waist? Or do you have that crazy thin 26 to 28-inch waist? Now, I myself will say I have pretty average waist genetics, so I'll give myself, just because I've said yes on every single other one, I'll give myself a no on this one, just because I know I don't have that, like, I would never be able to get to a 28-inch waist. I could probably get to about a 30-inch waist. So if you have anywhere between a 26 and a 29-inch waist, give yourself a yes. If at your leanest you're still around a 31 to a 34-inch waist, give yourself a no. The last category is how short or long your abdominal wall is. Now let's take a look at a picture of Jeremy Buendia, Ulysses, and random guy from the internet, we'll call him. Notice how long their abdominal walls are. It just feels like they have more abs, so it just gives the illusion of a more aesthetic six-pack. So these guys have very long abdominal walls, and what I mean by that is how long it is from the bottom of their V-shaped torso to the top of their lower chest. How much length you have in that area is going to really dictate your six-pack genetics. Now, somebody who I noticed has a little bit shorter of an abdominal wall is Jeff Nippard. Now, this would make sense because he's only 5'5". So some short guys have really good abdominal wall genetics. Like if you look at Jeremy Buendia, he actually has a pretty long abdominal wall structure, and I almost guarantee you this is why he's won so many men's physique contests in a row. It just gives a more aesthetic looking six-pack. He's got the symmetrical abs, he's got the V, and of course he's got the really wide build. Now, someone like Jeff Nippard could never get to Jeremy Buendia's level on the men's physique stage just because he lacks that length in the abdominal wall. So, do you have long abdominals or short abdominals? I'm gonna give myself a yes on this one. Although I don't have the crazy long torso like Ulysses has, I do have pretty good abdominal wall genetics. They are fairly long, so I'm gonna give myself a yes. Alright, so how many questions out of the 5 did you answer yes to? Let me know in the comments below. So if you answered yes to all 5 of the questions, you won the genetic six-pack lottery. I would assume that less than 5% of guys would say yes to all of these. So you won the six-pack lottery. Yes to 4 of them. Like myself, you have good ab genetics, so nothing to scoff about. If you answered yes to 3 of the 5, you have average six-pack genetics. 2 of the 5, you have below average. 1 of the 5, pretty bad. And 0 out of 5, just flat out awful. Alright guys, so I have a really cool surprise for you. I'm gonna pick 10 guys to beta test the new and improved Science of Abs program, 100% free. So I'm gonna pick 10 guys from this video. All you have to do is comment below the #1 reason that you want six-pack abs, and I'm gonna pick the 10 best comments. You guys are gonna get 100% free access to Science of Abs 8-week program, basically the most advanced abdominal training program ever created. It is going to almost guarantee that you get six-pack abs in only 8 weeks. So let me know your best comments below and I'm gonna check them out. And I'm also gonna link to all my best shredding videos. If you just go on my homepage, I actually have an entire playlist of like 30 to 40 videos dedicated to my best shredding videos. I covered almost every shredding topic last spring and summertime. So I'm gonna link to those videos as well. And if you just search on my homepage, you can see a list of all of them in one. So if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment below on the #1 reason that you want a six-pack. And I will see you guys on the next video.